Who really killed Charlie Kirk? Everybody except the person who pulled the trigger. Now, I'm not making light of the issue here. I'm showing you, trying to give you some reality on the subject. There's one person, Candace Owens, who has everybody doing it except for the people who put fascist on the bullet. So from what I recall, we do know that fascist was written on the bullet. I'll be honest, I didn't think the person in the camera walking away that they got looked like the same person who shot him, but I couldn't tell for sure about that. The same person they caught, who was the alleged shooter, didn't look like the person in the camera to me. But we know that there were people there posing as shooters to decoy police from catching the real shooter. And we know they had something to do with it. We know that the people who call Charlie Kirk fascist and the ones who call President Trump fascist and racist and all that are CNN, MSNBC, Democrat leaders. They know that people, when they call somebody racist, they know there's people that are going to try actually act on like gangsters and people who mobsters, mafias, mobs. They have Democrat mobs basically that are known for going and hanging a person, that type of stuff. Whether it's the right person or not, they just want to get somebody and assume that's the guilty one. They caught the wrong person. And so they like to, you call somebody, like they're calling people pedophiles who have nothing to do with Epstein. They don't care about pedophiles, the Democrats. They let a million Epsteins cross into our border on purpose. And I say that because they let in up to 20 million that we know of, and maybe up to 40 million during a Biden administration. And I think those numbers, so possibly that they don't know about, it could have been up to 40 million. So it would be easy to have, based on who let them through the border, cartels, it'd be possible to have a million Epsteins. All right. They don't care who they like falsely accusing people of pedophilia just so they have an excuse to kill somebody. These people are killers, literally. I'm from the streets. People, they hate Christians, want to kill Christians out there, especially now. It's like running rampant. They keep people into slavery of silence and demonizing talk of politics and religion. And if you talk against Islam or this or that, they want to kill you and stuff. If you want to claim Jesus is real, they want to kill you. If you support Trump, they want to kill you. And they want to dare you not to speak. And so they threaten. A lot of it's threats, and then there's certain ones that'll actually follow through and do it. So when I've been out there, I'll try to get a word in, and they yell over you and don't give you a chance, and it's not worth it. Sometimes you're wore out there. But I don't know if I wanted to go into all that. I just wanted to point out, the main thing I wanted to point out is, I didn't want to say too much about Candace because I don't want her to sue me for my $2. But as far as I know, she's trying to, what it looks like now, possibly, is her goal was to hurt the business and didn't want Charlie's death to make him so popular, the assassination to make him so popular like a Martin Luther King or something. She's trying to kill that apparently by destroying Turning Point. Now, I don't think Erica Kirk and even Charlie on some things, there's a lot of stuff they don't know very well theologically. But I'm a philosopher. I'm not a theologian. I'm not a person with a good memory. Charlie is. He had a great memory. But there's just certain things that I think our whole cultures, we talk about obedience. The Bible's about obedience, and he bought into that. And I don't think it's so much about where obedience is at the top level. I don't agree with it. I'll just tell you 100% at this point I don't agree with it. Because when they say obedience is the thing, usually they're wanting you to obey them. And that's not necessarily what God wanted you to do. But he wants us to be servants, and we can get into little tactical things or whatever. But we don't live in Rome. We don't live under dictatorship. We have the freedom to discern things in America and to contest things and try to put God in not a delusional way. But you're going to obey. The point is, you're supposed to love God, love your neighbor, trust God. Number one, trust. It's not, there's a song, trust and obey, for there's no other way. Right? To be happy in Jesus, but to trust and obey. Well, you're just going to want to obey if you trust it. And it makes sense to you. You just want to follow it, and you do obey. So, but the thing that God really asks us to obey is, it turns out to be, you have compassion, and you follow the notion. You give people a second chance because you have compassion, you have empathy, you understand where they're coming from, but you want them to understand that the biggest thing is the second life, right? It's the second life. He gives us that choice. Don't go to hell, please. So it's not hard to obey that. So, you know what I mean? So you prioritize your life to try to, you go on a diet, you stay on a diet to try to, things like that. You fight it. You're not going to be perfect at it, but you do it in order to leave more time to plant seeds of truth. Because every now and then you plant a million seeds and there's just one that all of a sudden it rings a bell with somebody and wakes them up. Oh, I just never recognized that as being real until now. So that's the way I look at stuff a lot. I didn't mean to get off on that. I guess I'm just a little bit in analytical mode. I didn't take time to look at this video. But Candace, at this point, seems like she may be trying to hurt. See, Charlie may have fired her. I don't know the story. Don't sue me. I'm not saying something for sure. It's speculation. She speculates about people and makes conclusions that aren't even true on purpose. It's pretty obvious. I mean, it's obvious that whoever put the bullet in Kirk falsely called him fascist, falsely called him racist, supported all the people that do that. And could be people from, is it Harvard, Yale? I forget what college it was. The one that has all the people who are hating on Jews and free Palestine people, and they came from overseas. You're supporting that, and you're putting that in colleges. It's Jew haters in colleges and stuff. And, I'm not defending the Jews. The Candace acts like, oh, all you do is support Jews. No, I'm defending that their government supports freedom right now. Their government supports and makes it okay to worship Jesus. They make it okay to seek truth and to talk peaceably instead of spread lies. The kind of lies that Candace spreads about people is the same kind of lies that got Charlie killed. So, but the Jews, there's a lot of Jews, I won't say most, I don't know what percentage, and the Bible prophesies it, that a lot of Jews in today's Judaism denies that Christ was the Messiah. They don't think that was him. And so they're anti-Christ. He proved it was him when he rose from the dead. I mean, it's pretty simple to figure. That's academic. Christ made it academic. We wanted the freedom of religion, not freedom of false religion. That's what America's built on. And the freedom of religion to be able to read ourselves without getting hung for reading the Bible and assessing it ourselves, without the Pope being the only one allowed to do it. They used to hang people for reading the Bible. That's why most settlers ran to America for freedom. You had Martin Luther in his 95 Theses way back then, opposing the Catholic Church, theocracy. So I'm not promoting theocracy direct. We know not to do that, but at the same time, I'm realizing it can, when you study it enough, there's no evidence of any other God. It's really dumb to believe in any God who is not risen from the dead. Jesus put that proof. My words are not here yet. I'm coming off a caffeine fix again. But the burden of proof, Jesus put it on all other gods. And so he proved if you can't rise from the dead, then that you don't have any evidence of being God if you can't do that and never die again. All right. And he did that. He ascended to heaven, never died again. And first of all, he died. He didn't just go up in a chariot like Elijah, which is a picture of rapture. He actually died. And they put a spear to make sure his fluids were emptied to prove he was dead. They put that on the cross, right? And he showed love for humanity on the cross. How many gods have showed true love for humanity all the way through pain and everything else? Still forgave. So when he rose from the dead, he proved he could come off the cross. All right. So that's all proof. That's academic. The only things you can knock on that is the only way you can deny it is to say it's power of the devil or that it's a fairy tale. It's just not true. All right. and you can't prove it's a fairy tale. They could say it is, but there's way too much evidence to really be honest and say that you can guarantee it's a fairy tale. You cannot. So you could say, I can't guarantee that it's not a fairy tale. Well, that's very unlikely. But I think I'm gonna have to end this video. I went past 10 minutes and I didn't mean to. But yeah, who's the real killer? It was a team of people, because some people, but it seemed that it was a gay mafia. It's Democrats, American Democrats. It was, I suspect, I don't know why a Mormon state. Well, I do, because Mormonism's not a real religion. They don't support the Trinity. They're calling Christ a liar. Jehovah's Witnesses are not a real Christian religion. So they deny the Trinity. They're basically an antichrist religion. And so is Mormonism. They're tricky, but they are too. But so I don't know everything Charlie believes. You know, I agree with a lot of his stuff. He was very smart, but they should have had more than 3 police officers there, and it's a Mormon state. There could have been a conspiracy there, or they just let their guard down. I don't know why they let their guard down in that political climate, but liberal arts colleges probably didn't like Charlie, because you're liberal Democrats, and they don't allow people to speak about politics. And here is Charlie is going to these things, speaking boldly and drawing crowds and convincing, telling the truth to college students the best as he knows it, and he told a lot of truth. I didn't agree with all his stuff, but most of it I did. And so they should have had more than 3 police officers there. Nobody was watching the ceiling. Now, some people, the question is, was the shot from closer in down? That could be a diversion. Candace, because at first I was trusting Candace. I didn't know shit. I hadn't followed politics close in the last year, as much close as I used to. I tried to, but I didn't have time, and or the resources a lot of the time. And so at first I'm thinking, I agreed with some of her stuff that it's possible it could have been a closer up shot, but they didn't have anybody watching the roofs. It would have been real easy to have one police officer watching the tops of buildings to make sure there's no snipers up there, right? Because that's obviously not a hard place to shoot from based on where the stage was and everything, and where you could get away, all right? So it was clearly some of the people involved that they caught were involved. They may have the real shooter. We're not hearing that because they have to investigate it privately, frankly. So we're harassing them for how they're investigating it. But they can't let all the details out. They have to keep it private and do the real research. So they're saying she's harassing them, saying in a sense, saying they're not doing the research and this and that, and they're trying to hide everything. Well, they haven't even had time to give us all the details and any inside double checks, or maybe they had it solved and no question had it solved without question. We don't know yet. So, and that was one of many investigations they do, but they have, I'm sure, locals. We know that the FBI had gone on to other investigations, but I'm sure they put teams on it, and maybe secretly they didn't know for sure if that was the shooter, because they did clearly have diversions. But why would she accuse Israel of that? If Israel did it, it was the liberals, the Antichrist, it was the Democrats, the American Democrat believing types in Israel that did it. It wasn't, or hypocrite. It could be hypocrite Republicans that would do something like that. But I don't know too many today who I would call straight up hypocrites, except maybe, I don't know if Comey was ever a Republican, and what they call rhinos, Republican in name only, that kind of stuff. But the guy that just died, I forgot his name, that Trump made it. He was a Republican, used to call himself Republican, but he was with the FBI for many years, through Bush. I don't even know. He might have even been in Clinton, but he was liked by Obama, and later seemed to turn on Republicans, and it's help all these, that illegal immigrants, all these what I call an Epsteins come across the border. I'm not when I say a million Epsteins, possibly a million Epsteins, possibly even more when you had 15 million. So I'm not calling the other 14 million Epsteins, but we know that when Democrats did the open border policies, what they did, it's not a policy. Actually, they're breaking the rules. The law didn't change. It's not even amnesty, or it's kind of like amnesty, but it's not even refugees they're letting in. They're just letting anybody in that they know that Venezuela emptied out their prisons and dumped them in, sent them in through the cartel paths. And cartels are a bunch of killers and thieves. They promote all the killers and thieves we have in every ghetto in America. Our ghettos might be slaves to them, in a sense. But it seems like our ghettos make slaves. They make their own slaves. And they pretend like they're against slavery, but they're the biggest slave runners in America. The crack gangs, mostly. Especially the crack gangs or ghetto slave owners. The Islamic blacks out there are always making slaves out of people and bullying, threatening to kill people. That's a fact. That's a fact. Hebrew Israelites are always bullying people into silence, and they're like connected to Islam. They might say they're not. They say blacks are the real Jews, and the truth is, Moses married a black woman, I think. I bet Moses wasn't black. So he married, if she was black, she could have been Arab, but she was from Ethiopia. So people married into different ethnicities, and it's mixed. There are white Jews, there are black Jews, there are Arab Jews, there are, so it's a mix, but from what we see today, a lot of them are white. That's just where they are in Israel. For as long as we've known it, there's been a lot of white Jews, but it's not all white Jews. And it's not all black Jews, all right? Black folks generally come from near the equator in Africa. Makes sense, doesn't it? UV rays, but the plants probably produce more vitamin D to protect skin from the sun. They lived there 3,000 years before Christ, after the flood, after the Tower of Babel, and God changed language. It makes scientific sense. And we're not that different. These ones saying that, they want to make it so different. They want to make it, they're being racist just like the evolutionists used to be. That favored white and said whites were more advanced in the evolutionary cycle, which is where supremacy idea comes from. And now these Hebrew Israelite blacks want to act like they're more advanced. They support both the evolutionary cycle story and claim that Adam was black, and they don't know that, and I don't know that. I've studied it more than them, and I haven't seen evidence to tell us whether Adam was black or white or in between. And nobody's actually black or white, by the way. We're beige and brown, all right? And that's all a shade of brown. And white people are beige, and they tan in the sun, all right? They tan in the summer if they're out in the sun much. And it doesn't, so the question is about my theory is, okay, well, how come they don't stay tan and their skin lightens back up in the winter? Well, but you're saying that darker skinned people from Africa, their skin got dark and stayed dark. Well, that's because it's UV rays. It's vitamin D protecting your skin from the sun. And over 3,000 years, I think your body builds up a gene, a strong gene to pass it down and just create more melanin in your skin to pass down and to protect your skin from the sun. So you don't just have to do it through vegetables and things like that. And it's, so it doesn't matter. I mean, skin tone doesn't make a person prettier, more beautiful than another. I think a smile does. Technically, a smile does. Being pleasant. It has a lot to do with personality and character, right? And taking care of yourself. Trying to be healthy. But and then there's people who have made it fashionable and tried to make it sexy to be overweight, so people can dance and do things to make that look attractive, right? But true beauty comes from the heart. It comes from just it's in the eye of the beholder, and an emotion, a sentiment, and an attachment, what do you call it? soulmates or some connections that you have with each other and those kind of things. And so and God did create man and woman to have things they're naturally attracted to. And so when it comes to the laws of attractiveness, a lot of it has to do with hormones and energy, just energy. And so that's where people can entertain hormones and sensations and things and don't even have to be attracted to each other. That's where you can get same-sex attraction, and that's not attraction, that's just enjoying hormonal stimulation and things like that a lot of times. And then there are people, I can't read it, there are people who are somehow emotionally attracted to the same sex too. That happens, and nobody's perfect. So if you want to talk about physical perfection, there isn't a physical perfection, but there is a proper way to do things to procreate and create a family and a responsible lifestyle towards a holistic approach to life, and not ignoring the spiritual realm, the mental realm, the emotional realm, the lifespan realm that's short, and valuing your time here, and then not ignoring God, right? So that's the thing. So God gave us hormones, and people would say, why did he do that? And then tell us we can't enjoy them. But he did that, and there is a lot of spiritual deep things and meanings to life that we can enjoy better if we don't pursue those kind of things. So I'm not into, I've never bought in somehow, I've understood that somehow, that maybe I have a gift or two, but then the weird part is I have a bad memory for teaching and remembering and recalling to teach things, but there was something in me that understood that, what I just explained actually, and I realized that's kind of unique in me, and it comes from, I think I had true faith in Christ at a young age, but it didn't give me some superpower, self-control and discipline. Didn't do that. But it did help me to love people and see them as my brother and sister who were complete strangers. Brother and sister from Adam and Eve. And to empathize and understand these people are being sabotaged in some way. There's no way they would act this way. I do recognize there are victims in society, and I don't fall for the fact that there are no victims. And I've realized they're victims of sabotage, and they've been blocked from having the knowledge to escape things, and also blocked from the resources to escape. So, and then also there's the side of society people should be able to escape to hardly exists, because there's too much stereotyping, bigotry, and everything else, and it's safe. There's a safety net in that, which that shouldn't be what the safety net is in, this, which is kind of called segregation, but it's a fact that it is safe. The segregation works and keeps one side of society safe in general. It's called drug-free society, but there's a lot of tricks, man. If they actually didn't outlaw the natural plant medicines God created, there could be a lot of functional addicts who can actually wean off of products. So, and it's not a promotion of using anything, but for people who are pre-exposed to certain items, you should have the safer ones available in the natural forms, in a tea form. And we've even our FDA and other things, they've taught people to smoke. That is legal, okay to smoke. It somehow should have been taught, that's a last resort, and they should have been taught to drink teas to get their medicinal fix or caffeine fix, kind of like coffee and tea for caffeine, but they should have had some teas, maybe nicotine teas or something, and not just that, maybe even coca leaf teas. That's, some people say, how dare you, they've demonized that plant, but they do drink it in Colombia, South America, and I've heard, I can't verify, but I've heard it's not as strong as coffee in that form. So I don't, but it's definitely a safer form than what the concentrated forms they put in the street, which are, and smoke forms and powder forms. A pill form would be safer than the smoke form and powder forms. It's not a, those are hustle forms. Those are swindler forms actually. And so, and then the truth is they steal from their customers because they can, and they make everybody think they spend all their money on this, and it's not that expensive. However, some of those medicines are more tolerable by the body, so you can keep going and going and going, which is makes it safer in some ways. But don't quote me on that. I'm not saying it's safe to do any of them. It's always a risk. But anyhow, there's a lot of tricks, and I've gotten lost on what my topic is, but it's been a while since I did a video. So I'll just maybe change the title here just to Bob Talks of Various Things, and I need to hurry and get off here. But sure didn't want it to be 25 minutes. But the Candace, this wasn't supposed to be about Candace Owens, but Charlie Kirk, I'm going to just say, going out on a limb here, and say I think he was killed by the Democrats. He was killed by the people that know that calling people fascist and racist over and over again, when they're lying about them, they know that the mobsters, the Democrat mobsters, liberal mobsters, don't care if it's true or not. They now have the green light, and everybody applauding them if the person gets killed or something, and it's okay to kill them, and they're just happy they can kill somebody. They don't care if somebody's a pedophile or not, frankly, because they promote them coming across our borders, because they promote Madonna doing what she does on stage in front of kids and everything else, and Beyonce doing it, and they promote gangsters and gangster slavery and pretend to hate slavery. They know that they're the ones that promote what goes on in the ghettos and have everybody killing each other in ghettos because of crack gangs. They're the ones that they know. He was, what's his name? Beyonce's boyfriend, Jay-Z. He was a crack dealer, so he definitely knows what goes on out there. I mean, I've been around it all. I've seen it all. They like the chaos in the crack neighborhoods because it keeps, they like setting up addicts to get caught so they don't get caught. They like, and that's slavery. They like stealing everything they have to keep it going so everybody can call people crackhead and assume that they just like to spend all their money on drugs. Well, they don't. They'd be dead if they did. They don't. They just get it stolen from the dealing groups who knows everybody just calls somebody a crackhead, and they love calling people crackheads. And because they can just keep stealing from them. And they're slaves. They're their biggest money makers. You call them crackhead and they become your biggest money maker. And but it is true, the nature of the drug is a fast drug and some people, some of the dealers are smokers who are more real crackheads, I guess you could say, because they just use it every day. But they continue supporting their habit by stealing from periodic relapsers and stuff like that. But they steal from stores. They want to, so they're supported by communist Democrats who want people robbing stores to put capitalism out of business. So they steal from stores all the time, and that's where they get a lot of money. And that's their goal, to get people. They steal from addicts, not just crackheads, but other addicts too, just to try to get them to where they steal from stores. And that's the Democrat Party's behind that, right? But I forgot kind of part of the point there because I'm running out of time. But those are the people that they're just looking for excuses to kill people. That's the people they hire. They keep not pedophiles, but they keep serial killers alive, and they oppose the death penalty because they want them to be their enforcers who continue to keep people dumb and won't let you talk about Trump. They act like they hate Trump and don't let you even say his name. They act like if you bring his name up, but you have to because he's in office, and you want to say he passed this law or passed that law. And then they'll say, don't mention Trump. He's a Trump lover, Trump supportive. What do you worship Trump? And you don't even pray to, you probably pray to Trump and not Jesus. They'll say stuff like that and won't let anybody get, because they don't want people to know that Trump did something good. That's the thing. And so they're not just being ignorant bigots. They know what they're doing. They're keeping people so they don't know anything. And so they can keep enslaving them. All right. Anyway, so Candace has joined that crowd. All right. I'm going to go. So is I'm not surprised that Tucker did because he used to do that with CNN. So I always wondered if he's going to switch back.